Good afternoon, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Apologies for the little internet disruption, but we got that figured out. So we have three terrific presenters today. Really excited to introduce these folks to you guys. So Keith Knutson's an affiliated fund leader from Laurel, Beth Rolfs is an affiliated fund leader from Diller, and Tyler Privino is an affiliated fund leader from Imperial. So three really inspiring stories that we'll hear from. And then right after that, we're going to do some small group breakout work for about 15 minutes. And about 20 of you have been willing to serve as small group facilitators. So thank you all for doing that and looking forward to a great session today.
Awesome, Jeff. I think we're ready to go ahead with the Pure Nebraska clip. Is that right?
Perfect.
All right, lovely. I'm going to go ahead and pull that up. Those of you just joining us, because I'm still admitting a whole bunch of people, thanks so much for being here. If you could please mute yourselves and check in at the chat, just let us know where you're calling in from today. We'd sure appreciate that. So sorry, folks. I'm doing my best here. All right.
Over the next 10 years, it is believed that more than $100 billion will transfer from one generation to the next in Nebraska.
This phenomenon is known as the transfer of wealth. In this sponsored story from the Nebraska Community Foundation, we discover that the state could benefit from this transfer of wealth if Nebraskans consider including a gift in their estate plans for their hometowns.
The transfer of wealth is a concept Nebraska Community Foundation is working to educate others about.
So the transfer of wealth is something that's always happened throughout humanity. It's whatever parents have made and accumulated during their lifetimes.
That accumulation of money is usually transferred between one generation to the next within a family. But NCF President and CEO Jeff Yost says the economy has changed.
And we have an incredible abundance to both support the next generation in our families and also support the charitable causes and public causes we care the most about.
Nebraska Community Foundation is urging people to include their hometowns as a beneficiary in their estate. NCF is also raising awareness about the dynamics surrounding heirs leaving their hometowns.
So the transfer of wealth here is if the parents continue to reside in the hometown, but the children now live someplace else, whenever the parents pass away, not only have we lost the young people that used to live there and now they move someplace else, whatever wealth those parents made and accumulated during their lifetime, well, that leaves as well, right? So you have not just a human migration, you have a migration of assets. I grew up in a family of 6, so one of the things I've always known is it takes a village. It took lots and lots of people to help my parents raise me and all my siblings. So one of the things we're thinking through is how do we include our hometown as one of the beneficiaries in my parents' estate planning? And we're encouraging lots and lots of other people to have a similar set of thoughts because given the magnitude of this transfer of wealth in each and every one of Nebraska's hometowns, there really is plenty for people to continue to be able to support their children and their heirs, but also to continue to build and sophisticate their communities into great places in the 21st century.
This latest transfer of wealth study is the third one that's been done by NCF.
We think that $100 billion is going to transfer from one generation in the next 10 years in Nebraska. Over a 50-year period, we think some $950 billion is going to transfer from one generation to the next. So for instance, in Shickley, when they did a campaign a few years ago, they went and had a conversation with each and every family in that school district about their interest in making a contribution to an unrestricted endowment, and about 2/3 of the families in that school district did so. So these are the types of things that we're encouraging people to do, is go and have a conversation with your friends and neighbors about what if.
By getting people to consider leaving a small percentage of their estate to their hometowns, that small percentage could be a game changer for the future of Nebraska.
Transfer of wealth
All right.
study, Nebraska Community Foundation.
Jeff, with that, we're going to hand it over to you, and I'll go ahead and get your slides up.
Thank you, Carrie. So just going to take just a couple minutes here and just review some of the key elements of this, and then we'll get into some community stories right away. All right. Can you make that the full screen, Carrie? There you go. All right, so we always start with this, and this is just incredibly important in this work, is that Nebraska is blessed with abundance. This transfer of wealth is an absolute manifestation of all of that abundance. And everything we need is right where we are. Everything and everyone here works. So incredibly important framing. Go ahead to the next one. So 4 really important building blocks here. Not only do we have incredible wealth, but all communities have wealth to give. I'm going to click through the next ones, Carrie. There you go. The wealth is transferring now, and we must act with urgency. Our communities need these assets, and many are already successfully putting them to work. And when we leave some of our wealth to the places where it was made and accumulated, we can ensure a more prosperous future for our Nebraska hometowns. I'll go to the next one. Okay, so the transfer of wealth includes basically everything that would go into a calculation of current net worth. So all of those sorts of pieces. So those are just building blocks. And if you ever have more questions about what's included in the transfer of wealth, we're happy to have that conversation with you. And of course, so many of these assets have appreciated greatly in the past several years. Will you flip to the next slide, please? One of those, of course, is agricultural real estate. And as you can see, since the, really the late 90s, the price of land has doubled and tripled. Keith has a story about, how much it's changed. These are just some of the different land types and what those average land prices were in 2019 and 2020. Go to the next one. So that's the high level pieces. We talked about that in the Pure Nebraska piece. Go to the next one. So we've broken the state out into regions, and these are the populations of those various regions. And then we've calculated the transfer of wealth over a 10-year and a 50-year period for these regions. So you go to the next one. So Northeast Nebraska, 8.8 billion, Southwest Nebraska, 4.7 billion, Southeast Nebraska, 10 billion, metro areas, 44 billion. Enormous amounts of wealth transferring in each and every part of the state, each and every community in the state. So tremendous abundance. Go ahead to the next one. Those numbers get dramatically larger at a 50-year period. You can go to the next one. This is maybe the most important thing here. It's not just the magnitude of the transfer of wealth, but it's the speed at which it's transferring. So, really now and in the next decade, we just need to have thousands and thousands of conversations with people that we know and who care about their interest, their potential for giving something back to their community. And that's why all of you are so incredibly important in this. Is it's all about relationships. It's all about trust, because we know the potential exists here, but the timing of this is moving very rapidly, and it's peaking right now in most of our hometowns. Next slide, please. So this is the tagline we've used. We really encourage you guys to use this as well. Once our wealth leaves the
Has Jeff frozen up for others?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and finish us up here. All right. Once our wealth leaves the community, it is gone forever. Once our wealth is endowed, it is here forever. The time to act is now. The opportunity will never be greater. All right. And I know that we're going to have some wonderful community stories to really bring this point home. But obviously, community endowment building in the NCF network has grown leaps and bounds. You're going to hear some really inspiring stories here in just a minute about exactly that. All right. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm actually up next to talk to you a little bit about the campaign that we launched recently, and a little bit about the online platform that was developed in correlation with the new transfer of wealth study, as well as our 5 to Thrive campaign. So let me go ahead and share my screen here. So as Jeff mentioned, we've been doing transfer of wealth studies at Nebraska Community Foundation for 3 decades. And of course, a lot has changed over those years. We knew this study in particular, it was going to be really important to have some kind of online platform where people could go and learn more about the transfer of wealth. So the web address to this website that you see in front of you here is 5tothrivene.org. The other way you can get here really easily is if you just go to our website. You can't miss this big yellow button right here. It'll take you right to the spot. So I'll just point out a few things on this 5 to Thrive website, but definitely invite all of you to take some time on your own, explore what is going on here. If you visited it back in November when we just kicked off the campaign, believe me, there has been a lot added since that time. So really hope that you'll go out again and give it a look. But we have this really neat interactive county map. Each and every one of you can go and find your county. Right now, you can click on it, and it is going to bring up a little window here that gives you kind of some high level transfer wealth stats. But you can also do really cool things like I can click here and discover lots of stories about Keith County and all of the amazing things happening there. We also have these really great county reports for each and every one of Nebraska's 93 counties. The one you see right here is for Boone County, and every single one of your counties has a sheet that looks just like this available to you right now, easy to print, easy to share. But it really goes into some detail on what this transfer looks like in a place like Boone County. How much money are we talking about exactly? And most importantly, what are some ways that people can take action to ensure that we harness some of this wealth transfer in Boone County forever? Oh, just a reminder to mute if you are not yet. Thank you so much. All right, some other items on this website. We're really proud of this newsroom. It's where we're putting all kinds of great community success stories that relate to the transfer of wealth. We're really proud of the work that we did with the Rural Radio Network to develop some fantastic audio stories that we invite you. They're nice little quick listens, but really great storytelling about how the transfer of wealth is coming into play in lots of different places. I see Bob Stoll. He was definitely one that talked to our friends at Rural Radio Network about the great stuff happening in Valley County. And then the thing I really wanted to point out here, and know that the next 2 sessions in this transfer of wealth series, the virtual learning series that you're on right now, there are 2 more sessions after this one, and we will take much more time to dive into this transfer of wealth toolkit. But this is developed specifically with NCF volunteers across the state in mind. So with your fund advisory committees in mind. These are all downloadable materials that you are more than welcome to go and use. There are no passwords required. They are all completely free resources. But lots and lots of good stuff, customizable press releases. We have downloadable brochures on some of the most common types of planned gifts that a person might make. There is so much here to explore. Again, I don't want to give too much. We're going to talk a lot about this in the sessions to come, but this is a resource available to all of you right now. And I truly hope that you will go out and explore it, check out some of these materials, and we look forward to hearing from you on maybe some of the things that you'd like to see there in the future. All right, with that, I'm hoping that my wonderful community storytellers are available and ready, because you are going to hear some very inspiring stories from 3 communities in the NCF network. And first up, we are starting with Laurel. So Keith, tell us a little bit about the story in Laurel.
Well, thanks, Carrie. Appreciate the opportunity. As you can see on the screen, our Laurel Area Community Fund was established in 2005. And so we're almost 17 years in. Population has been right in the same area for a long, long time, just under 1,000. But it's taken us 17 years to get our endowed funds to $1 million. We just hit that at year end, and we're extremely excited. But it seems like it took a very long time to get there. So with the transfer of wealth study, it was really interesting, and was fortunate enough to be on the committee working on that. Jeff mentioned on the ag land prices. So quick story, right when we were in the middle of that study, I got a hold of Jeff and said, you know, it's interesting when you valued ag land and you separated ag out, and that's really great. But I'm looking at assessed values in our area, and we just had 3 irrigated quarters sell for over $13,000 an acre. And so even though these numbers seem high, they actually are pretty conservative in my opinion. And I think especially in the ag area right now, there's a huge amount of additional value over what we would have expected even a year or 2 ago. With that said, we currently have just over 2.3 million in total assets, just over $1 million as of year end in unrestricted endowments. And so far in that 17-year period, we've invested over $575,000 back into our community. So if we look at the impact of that grant making, most recent example, we spent the last 2 years trying to raise just over $4 million for a new community center. And you can see the rendition there right now. It's supposed to be open September 1st. And we were able to so far raise over $2.4 million locally. So think about that, $2.4 million raised in 2 years. It took us 17 years to get to $1 million in endowment. Thanks to NCF and their help with this project, the funds have been flowing through NCF. They've helped us learn how to make the ask. And lastly, they've helped us with several grant applications. And so we are very near our goal right now and really excited about that project. As we move on to the transfer of wealth, it appears that when we take Cedar County and bring it down to the Laurel area, we have the opportunity to see about 101 million in transfer of wealth over 10 years. Our share of that, if we were able to get 5%, would be $5.1 million. What's tremendous about that is we'd be looking with that in our current endowments at a payout of over $200,000 a year in perpetuity for projects in our communities. And that would just be tremendous. Some of the other things about the transfer of wealth, when you see the numbers there, says we've achieved 21% of our 10-year transfer of wealth goal. But we really need to work on the confirmed expectancies and the estate planning and making the asks there, because that's the area of the most opportunity that we see. And last but not least, I'd like to talk a little bit more about the assets that we've accumulated in Laurel for the community just recently. The community center I mentioned at $4 million, but we've also had a new fire hall built for $1.2 million. That's going to open in a couple of months. A $3.7 million downtown revitalization project for Main Street. A new high school bond issue was passed for $23 million for a new high school. And last but not least, we're going to have a new splash pad, $290,000 project that is funded through the Nebraska Community Foundation, through local donations and grants.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Keith. And I hope that you take a look at the chat because you're getting all kinds of love there. What a success story with the community center. And Kara points out in COVID years, you all did that fundraising. So thank you so much for lending your voice to this conversation.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Beth in Diller. Beth?
Yes, I'm Beth Ross from the Diller Community Foundation Fund. As you see, our fund was established in 1999. So we've been at this work a little over 20 years. And I'm excited to say, with a community of a population of around 250 plus or minus a few, we've been able to accomplish some wonderful, wonderful things in our community. We did not start out with an unrestricted endowment. We started out in 1999 with a dream to build a fund that would ensure some financial security for our community so that they could invest in implementation and dreaming and not fundraising all the time. We were in communication with our community members as well as with our alumni from the school over the years through a publication we do annually called the Hometown Connections. And it wasn't until about 7 or 8 years into our work that we were blessed to receive a donation of $50,000 worth of cattle, a truckload of cattle from Al and Joanne Swagger of COZAD. Al is an alumni of Diller. He gave this in honor of his parents, Ed and Bessie. And it was at that time that we could begin the dream of an unrestricted endowment. Prior to that, we were building our the trust with the community to trust us to do what we were sharing as our dream. We were inviting them to participate. We had wanted an endowment, but we just had not gotten there yet. This gave us the opportunity to start our first challenge grant, and that grew into a gift of $250,000. Since then, we have had another challenge grant, and the community has responded generously. We just last year met the milestone of $1 million worth of assets in our unrestricted endowment. So we're very excited about that. What we've been doing to build this is we do have a legacy campaign that we have worked on just over the last year with real concerted effort. And we also have an annual dream event that we use to not only build relationships and get the word out about what the foundation is, what it can do, and what it has done, but we also use it as a fundraiser to build our endowment as well as our general fund. One of the things that is very important to our fund is youth and youth recruitment. One of the projects that we did recently was to survey our high school youth with in collaboration with the Nebraska Community Foundation. We then took the data from that survey and we are working to move that out into the public realm so other stakeholders will hear the voice of our young people. Recruiting our young people and retaining them to our community is vital to the future, and we know the importance of giving them a voice. So last Tuesday, we met with our county commissioners and not only presented a piece on what the Diller Foundation has done within the community, but we shared what the young people are saying they want in a good quality place to raise a family. And we are proud to say that 43% of the participants expressed an interest in returning to their hometowns of Diller and Odell to build their dreams as young adult leaders. The county commissioners were also very interested in hearing about the transfer of wealth and the 5 to Thrive. To my knowledge, Diller is the only affiliated fund in Jefferson County. There are some other 501c3s and another community foundation that is private. We were excited to share with them the potential of how transfer of wealth within the Nebraska or within Jefferson County could benefit the county. Diller has exceeded its transfer of wealth goal according to the statistics, but a bulk of that amount is our unrestricted endowment. So right now we have 536,643 in confirmed expectancies. We really want to continue building that. Through 13 gifts, we have individuals who have made a commitment to the future of the community at the time when their resources no longer need to serve their needs. Our goal as a board then is to continue that conversation with others and continue to build that amount so that the needs of the future that may be confronted, the dreams of the future that might be created by our new young leaders have a better chance of becoming reality through the legacy that we are leaving them now.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Beth. That was fantastic. And again, you're getting all kinds of love in the chat, so be sure to check that out. I see Kara Weandergasser, you have your hand raised. Did you have something you wanted to say?
I did not. That was an accident. I apologize, Carrie.
All right. That's all right. No worries at all. Hey, we'll just take it as a hands up for Diller. Thank you so much. All right. Last but certainly not least, we have Tyler from Imperial. Tyler, take it away.
Good afternoon, everybody, or for those doing the Lord's work out here in God's time, good morning. It's great to be with you. I'm Tyler Pribino, the current chair of the Imperial Community Foundation Fund. Imperial is a small, thriving town in southwest Nebraska. As you can see, we have 2,068 residents, but we're getting new families moving to the area all the time from the Front Range. Our fund was formed in 1999, so we've been doing this for a little more than 20 years. But it was early in our existence where the founders of our foundation fund decided to spend a lot of their focus on growing our unrestricted endowment. While that means we didn't have a lot of money for grants in our early years, as our unrestricted endowment has continued to grow, we've then had a steady source of funds to invest back into our community, and we will forever. About 5 years ago, we crossed the $1 million threshold for our unrestricted endowment. As you can see now, we have nearly doubled that amount, thanks largely in part to a successful building community capacity campaign and our generous donors. What took us 15 years to grow has nearly doubled again in 1/3 of that time. We hope to build off that momentum and continue growing our unrestricted endowment at a steady clip. So what's the impact of that money? Where's it going? I'm happy to announce we've contributed well over $500,000 back into our community projects and organization. That stewardship of our donors' money has been a large part of our success, allowing us to earn their trust that the money will be invested in our community wisely. As you can see from the photos here, many of the projects and organizations we have granted towards focus around youth and making Imperial a more welcoming place for everyone. The Imperial Community Foundation Fund has helped make the biennial SCORE Science Camp an ongoing success with several grants, bringing more than 300 youth together every 2 years for hands-on learning experiences. Our local fund has also been the primary sponsor for Smokin' on Broadway, a day-long barbecue contest and family-friendly event for all ages. Last year, the Community Foundation spearheaded bringing the Dolly Parton Imagination Library to all families in Chase County, giving a free book per month for each child under 5 years old. Several years ago, we threw our support and $15,000 behind the dream of some 9 and 10-year-old children to build one of the best outdoor skate parks in the state. Perhaps more importantly, we helped empower those kids to find a way to permanently better their community. More recently, our local fund recognized the importance and value of public art in a community and how it helps attract people and families to our area, and recently granted $10,000 to our local government to help activate a vacant lot and transform it into an art-filled mini park. We've also helped bolster the food security in our community through the pandemic by making grants to a local church looking to host a mobile food pantry, our community center that does Meals on Wheels, and as of this week, another church to help start a monthly soup kitchen. So we're trying to make Imperial as inclusive and welcoming as possible, and certainly with a huge focus on our youth and ways to make this community somewhere that they want to come back to after they graduate high school. Now we're flipping that switch in our brains, though, with this transfer of wealth study. We all know the benefits of shopping local. Studies have shown that each dollar spent here will usually change hands 7 times in that same community before it leaves. But once that dollar has left the community, it's likely gone for good. So why not use that same concept for our planned gifts and estate planning? What if, like shopping locally, we kept some of that abundance local to our communities? What if we capture that and rather letting it go ever, what if we continue to invest it in our community and using some of that abundance and some of that investment to continue to better our communities? So that's where we're focusing now through not only this conversation, but internally in our local community foundation, is how can we capture that money and never let it escape? How can we continue to roll it over year after year after year and better our community? So we've been at it for over 20 years here in Imperial, but in the grand scheme of things, we're only just getting started. We have nearly $300,000 in confirmed expectancies, but there's such a huge potential for so much more to capture that local abundance. And I'm certain if we capture that local abundance, even that 5% of transfer of wealth in the next 10 years, there's no doubt Imperial and all of Nebraska will continue to thrive.
Tyler, you are awesome. Give everyone this is how we do Zoom round of applause. Can we give all of our speakers a big Zoom round of applause? Who loves that shopping local parallel between transfer of wealth and shopping local? That is so brilliant. Thank you so much to all of our speakers, and please check out the chat, you guys, because you're just, a lot of this is really resonating. We can see that for sure. All right, well, I think Jeff's back. I'm not sure. His internet seems a little undependable, which is kind of funny. Folks in Lincoln don't usually have to deal with that. It's usually folks in greater Nebraska, but apparently Lincoln's having the internet trouble today.
I am back, Carrie. So if people can you hear me? Yeah.
We hear you great, Jeff.
So now, what wonderful presentations. Thank you all so much. And Carrie, thank you for carrying the ball here. This has been terrific. Now we're going to break out into small groups. So Carrie is assigned small groups of 3 to 4 people. We're going to take about 15 minutes and break into our small groups. And we have 3 questions. Each of you have a facilitator for your group. So that person will identify themselves. Then we're going to ask you to really work through 3 questions in the next 15 minutes. First of all, share the progress of your affiliated fund and the progress you've made on endowment building, plan giving, and community building. Very similar to what Tyler and Keith and Beth just did. Second, share a community story related to the transfer of wealth. And this could be a really positive thing, or it could be the fish that got away. But it's important to really think about what are those community stories and what do we learn from both the really positive stuff and the stuff that was an opportunity missed. And then finally, I hope you can spend some time on what help do you need to get your affiliated fund to focus on the transfer of wealth opportunity. That might be some staff assistance. It might be some help from a peer mentor from a neighboring affiliated fund. It could be one of these stories we've heard here today. But please tell us what we can do to help you manifest this opportunity in your hometown. So with that, Carrie, if you would send us off to our small groups, we'll see you all in about 15 minutes. All right. Well, we wanted to do a few minutes of report out here. So let's take about 5 minutes and do that. Small group facilitators or other people that participated in a small group. What are some of the stories you've heard? What are some of the things that people are requesting in terms of assistance or some help in helping their friends and neighbors really understand this opportunity more? So feel free to pipe up and share what you talked about in your small group.
In my group, we talked about the progress that Howells is making from a $50,000 endowment 8 years ago to over $1 million today. I mean, really exponential growth. And through that, more FAC members themselves are being inspired to give because success breeds success. So I thought that was powerful. Deb made a great point about Butler County and their recent commitments on the grant making side are getting them attention, which is translating into plan gifts and fund development. And as we often say, there's no better fundraising than great grant making. And boy, that's the truth. People give money because they want to see it do good work. So Butler County made their biggest commitment by a long shot to the Bone Creek Museum late last year, and that has garnered some attention, which is translating into planned gifts. So that's a powerful lesson. And then in terms of what's needed, I thought we had two really good thoughts. Number one, NCF materials have been great, and that's appreciated. But locally, we got to get them out. Got to get them into people's hands. Got to get them into the newspaper. Got to do that stuff. So distribution matters. And then Deb made a powerful point. Maybe something we all know, but it's going to take somebody focused on it. Locally, someone on the FAC has to step forward and say, "This is my baby, and I'm gonna run with transfer of wealth and planned giving and really try to do something." So creating that person who has that passion, creating that position on your FAC, I would second Deb's motion. I think it's really critical. So great discussion from Kathy and Deb. Thank you both.
Thank you, Casey. That was terrific. Who else wants to share?
Hey, Jeff, I can share what we talked about. I thought we covered 3 different areas that I thought was great. Brian up at Neely was telling us that they are within $17,000 of completing a $300,000 homegrown challenge that's going to be ending next June. So I thought that was fantastic. Heidi at O'Neill says she's a marketing and communications person, and they're working on the messaging up there. So this transfer of wealth rollout would give her lots of good information to use there. That was pretty important. And I was lucky enough to be in the same room with Jessica Bortner, who is our Community Hospital Foundation Director here in McCook. And so we shared with them the work that we're doing, creating a philanthropy council and enhancing the relationships between the foundations that are here in McCook, the Hospital Foundation, College, Nursing Home, and with the idea and strategies that the transfer of wealth, we work together on this, it will be beneficial to all of our foundations here in McCook. So that was all the great news. One thing on the negative side, and I know we need to talk about those sorts of things because it's important to all of us. Every day isn't a win, but Brian mentioned the burnout sometimes that comes with some of our volunteers. And to me, it stresses the importance of making sure you get more people involved and get a lot of hands working toward that goal. And I know here in McCook, that's been really one of the keys to success. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, Dale. Let's take one more.
I'm happy to share. I had a great conversation with Karen from Wayne and Tom from Columbus. Karen's just getting more active with her affiliated fund there. And she had a question, how do you make the ask? How do you get more comfortable making that ask? So we had some good discussion about NCF's got training that can help with that, reaching out to your peers. And then there was a follow-up question, and I think it kind of hits onto Gina's point as far as the question of how the transfer of wealth gets into the hands of financial planners and attorneys. Tom had a great idea. Talk with those attorneys, talk with those financial planners, see if you can schedule some joint conferences or seminars with some of their potential clients, and have a booth ready there with some information about it too. But then also make them aware of, this is Imperial Community Foundation Fund. Here's what we do. This is Perkins County, Keith County, wherever you are at. So they're aware of what you do, what your mission is, and they can convey that information on to your financial planners. And I think they would all be receptive to this 5 to Thrive initiative as well. So really great discussion. Thank you, Karen and Tom, for that insight.
Awesome. Thanks, Tyler. Is there one more quick one somebody wants to add? Janie, do you?
Yeah, I'll be quick. I had a terrific discussion with Shelby from Holt County and O'Neill, and from Rodolfo from Perkins County. And one of the things that we talked about was fostering a sense of belonging in your place so that you actually have that desire to give back to it. And we talked about the use of events in that context, but also at the very end, we were talking briefly about interns, hometown interns, and how we might employ them this summer to be involved with kicking off campaigns in different areas. So I just thought that was a cool connection and suggestion. And complete.
Fantastic. Thanks, Jenny. Anybody else have a burning thing they want to share?
This is Steve. I wanted to add, had Nelma from Stewart and Dennis from Perkins. And one of the things that Dennis pointed out was how, I guess not easy, but simple a planned gift can be when you use beneficiary designations, because you don't need a will, you don't need an attorney, you don't need any of that. You can do it yourself. It's quick, it's easy, and it benefits the community. So, but we had a great discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Well, thank you all for doing this. Small group facilitators, if you would be so kind as to write me a quick email of any key findings from your small groups, or any key things that an affiliated fund leader in your small group said they wanted some assistance with. Appreciate that very much. And with that, I'll say thank you to all of you and turn it over to Carrie to kind of wrap us up.
Well, all of your conversations couldn't segue better into session 2, which we certainly hope that everyone will sign up for. It's going to be happening in a couple of weeks. Very specific to planned giving and developing relationships with financial planners. We plan to have a couple of financial planners actually on that call, and our own resident planned giving expert, Jim Gustafson, will be there with us as well. But that's going to be a really great conversation. I did put in the chat how you can go ahead and register for that session. And then our final one will really be around marketing and communications. So please, really hope you will join us for those. And I hate to call it homework because no one likes homework, but there are just a couple of things that it would be great if everyone could plan to do before our next session together. First of all, register for session 2, just talked about that. But we hope that you'll take a little bit of time to go to 5toThriveNE.org and explore that website and some of those resources. Definitely download your own county's transfer of wealth report. And then finally share it with 5 people. And with that, we have so enjoyed being together with you today. We did record this session, and we'll plan to have it on our Vimeo channel, as well as share it on all of our social media platforms. So if there was someone that you know that couldn't be here or should have been here, we'll have lots of ways for you to share it with those folks. Thank you all so much. That's all we have for today.